Hello, in this video we're going to talk about 5 scams that could happen to you as a tourist in Beijing, China. So before I start, I'd just like to say that this might give a bad impression of visiting China. I'm sure it isn't like that. I haven't actually been to Beijing myself. I've been to Taipei in Taiwan, and it was a lovely country. I think there's a slightly different culture in Taiwan, which is possibly why I didn't have any scams pulled on me. The Far East is a lovely place to visit, and please don't be put off. Just be wary of these scams and use the information in this video to avoid having them pulled on you. If you've been scammed on holiday in Beijing or anywhere else in China, let me know down below, because I'd be really interested to know about other Chinese scams, and I will make another video in future if you tell me your stories. Right, let's get on with the list. So at number 5 we have the fake money scam. So the way this scam works is you use a taxi or you use a small street seller or something, and you give them a huge denomination because that's all you got given when you did your currency conversion. So you give them a big note for something small that you're buying, and in the change that they give you, with the notes they give you as the change, some of those will be fake, and you won't be expert enough with the currency to be able to identify them. So what can you do to avoid this scam? Well, ideally get smaller denominations if possible when you're doing your currency conversion. Also, you could use your bigger notes at trusted bigger retailers to get change in smaller denominations that you can use for these street sellers and taxis and things. At number 4 we have the rickshaw scam. So you've gone to Tiananmen Square to look around at all of the history, and you see a rickshaw and you think, well, that could be quite nice. You know, I don't usually go on a rickshaw. I usually just get taxis because I'm so rich. The problem is there are a lot of rickshaw scammers. So you'll get in their rickshaw, they will cycle you to the middle of nowhere and then demand a huge amount of money to take you back to civilization, if you're lucky, if they don't just leave you there in the middle of nowhere. Unfortunately, as tempting as it may seem to go on a rickshaw, just don't do it. It's not worth the risk. Now, this is a little bit like, actually, the taxi scam that happened to me, or almost happened to me, in Paris, France. Paris, France. They won't know where they're going, and they will charge you an extortionate amount for the journey, and you'll be lucky if you actually get to your final destination. At number 3, we have the tea room scam. So this is the scam that sort of unsettles me the most, actually, in this list, and that is the tea room scam. You will be in a tourist location, again like Tiananmen Square, and some Chinese people will come up and talk to you. And crucially, they will come up and talk to you in English, which apparently is really unlikely in China because only a select few sort of young people actually speak English in China. So certainly if some middle-aged people come up to you speaking English, then alarm bells should really be ringing in your head. So they'll try and befriend you a little bit, and they'll ask you if you fancy a drink, and you're a sort of trusting tourist, so you say, oh yeah, I do fancy a coffee, and you think you've made some friends because you're so charismatic, and they take you to a little place that sells tea and coffee. All seems great. You go inside, you sit down, you look at the menu, it's 20 RMB for a coffee, so you sit there having your coffee with your new friends. When you finish your coffee, it turns out that it wasn't 20 RMB for a coffee.
It was 20 RMB for a sip of coffee.
And you've been sipping at that coffee like there's no tomorrow. So your bill is racked up. Or maybe they've given you a really expensive bottle of wine or something along those lines. It doesn't matter. Basically, you've been conned and charged a fortune. And when you go to leave, big bully boys will sort of stop you from leaving until you've paid. Now, I watched a great video about this on Serpent ZA's channel. He's a great South African YouTuber who lives in China and has lived there for ages. He's got a wife and everything. And he has actually made very detailed videos about most of the scams, I think, that I'm including in this video. So if you want more information, more detailed information about each of these scams, then do go and check out his channel. I highly recommend it. But if you want to avoid the tea house scam or any sort of scam, really, you should just not unfortunately trust anyone that speaks to you in English unless they're kind of presentable and young, and even then be a little bit wary. Basically just be on your guard. Don't be too trusting. You don't want to be like what I become when I go on holiday, which is somebody says, you know, excuse me sir, what's the time? And I go, no! You know, you don't want to do that. but just be on your guard. At number 2, the inflated price scam. So it's very typical in Chinese markets. In fact, it's expected that you have to barter when you buy something. The result is that when you're a foreigner and you go into a Chinese technology market or fashion market or something, you will be ripped off as soon as you go in. Now, again, coming back to Serpent ZA, he made a video where he tried to buy a motorcycle helmet. He knew how much this motorcycle helmet cost. It cost about 100 RMB. The best price he could get from this shop was like 1,000 RMB. Basically, you will be ripped off if you are a foreign person going into a market. Now, I've got my own story about this. I went into a technology market in Taiwan, and I think maybe their culture... Oh, an email. I think their culture maybe is slightly different in Taiwan, because I sat in a technology shop for about 20 minutes trying to get a discounted price. I did get a discounted price, but I think I got a slightly inferior product as a result. It was fine. I was buying a USB hard disk, but I just kind of went on and on and on to this person. I think maybe I got confused. Maybe in Taiwan they don't actually barter like they do in Beijing. But just be wary of the prices that people offer you in these markets. If you can, you should look up the item price and do a sort of currency conversion. Make sure that you're not being absolutely destroyed to the tune of 10 times the item's value. And at number 1, we have the counterfeit item scam. China is famous for their counterfeit items. You know, if you've watched any of my YouTube videos, that China produces fake Lego, fake iPhones, I've got a list here, fake designer clothes, any electronics that can be faked, China will fake it. It's not like they're kind of actively trying to sort of you know, rip people off. There is just a kind of mentality in China that if you can cheat, i.e. copy, then you should cheat, which is, you know, not probably that palatable to us in the West, but it's kind of normal in China. So with that in mind, when you go into shops and things, be very, very careful. You might end up thinking you've come out with a great bargain and actually you've just bought an inferior counterfeit item that's, you know, basically illegal in the West and isn't going to last as long as the real thing. If you buy a fake iPhone, it'll actually be running Android, for example. So, you know, just be wary. And also people can actually come up to you on the street and try and sell you stuff that's counterfeit. So if anybody does that, don't think that they're coming up to you with a genuine iPhone that they want to sell you for, you know, £100. It just isn't true. It's going to be counterfeit. They're going to do that to everyone. So you should really stick to buying branded items from trusted retailers, and even then, be careful, because there are actually even like fake Apple stores in China. You will know because there'll be tiny little Apple store shops that don't look quite right, and they'll be in, you know, technology markets and things, which Apple, I'm sure, wouldn't actually have. So yeah, just watch out for those. Go to the sort of main big stores that you can verify online. That about wraps up these 5 scams. Remember, if you've been scammed during a trip to Beijing or anywhere else in China, let me know your story down below, and I think I'll make a follow-up video if you guys leave some really meaty stories for me to retell. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe if you like my videos, and I shall see you next time for another one.